Ronnie Ward from the Ditmas section of the Flatbush neighborhood, Brooklyn, in the city of New York. It's Saturday, the 16th day of March, 2024. And, there's a lovely crackling fire there. Yes. Well, this is RFK Jr.'s controversial vice president short list and will TikTok be banned? Planet America. March 15th, 2024, 22,906 views, 495 likes. This week, RFK Jr.'s controversial vice president short list, the attempt to ban TikTok, and the meltdown over Biden's secret migrant flights. Planet America Fireside Chat, 8 p.m., AEDT, ABC News, more. Campaign update and let me see. Campaign update. Oh my gosh, it's so difficult. Campaign update and JFK's potential running mates. More from No Labels National Director Joe Cunningham. Third Way's Kate D. Grugeyer explains why No Labels risks helping elect Trump. Will TikTok be banned? Biden's secret migrant flights, a bunch of malarkey. Professor Ilya Sonin explains why he privately sponsors migrants. Subscribe. ABC News In Depth takes you deeper on the big stories with long-form journalism. From Four Corners, foreign correspondent, Australian Story, Planet America, and more, and explainers from ABC News Video Lab. Watch more ABC News and content ad-free on ABC iView. Okay, so here we go. Let's see what we have. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, it aired today, Friday. Yeah. Well, it's Saturday now. Well, the time zone thing and all of that. Yeah, this is out of Australia. Well, I'm in New York City. Yeah. Yes, that's right. So it gets a little confusing. One day, another day, yeah. Anyway. But I love the crackling fire, though. Yes. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Oh, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols, being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows the turkey and the mistletoe. They make the seasons bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will try to rise to sing tonight. I know it's the wrong season, but you know what? I can't help it. You see a fire crackling and, it just reminds you of all those good things. I know it's Easter now. Well, hippity hop hop. Yeah, we got the bunny thing too. Yeah, it's a fire. I can't help it. It's inspiring. Well, here we go.
Hello there. Welcome to Planet America's Fireside Chat. I'm John Barron.
And I'm Chaz the Jedi.
Plenty to chat about again this week, Chaz. We're going to be looking at attempts to ban TikTok in the United States or force its sale. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. is looking for a running mate. Are you interested?
No.
Okay.
And I'm going to be busting some malarkey about an allegedly secret plan to invade America with plane loads of unvetted illegal immigrants. But first...
Both Donald Trump and Joe Biden officially wrapped up their respective party presidential nominations this week. Not that there was any doubt in that matter. Reporters, though, did ask President Biden whether he would take part in a presidential candidate debate against Donald Trump, as is scheduled for later this year. You'll recall in 2020, Trump gave a fairly outlandish performance at the pair's first ever debate. It was later revealed that Trump had already tested positive to COVID, putting many people at risk in those pre-vaccine days, including Biden and his debate coach, Chris Christie, who caught COVID and nearly died of the disease as a result. So, would Joe Biden be prepared to have a rematch? Well, his answer was not an immediate yes.
Mr. President, will you commit to a debate with former President Trump? It depends on his behavior.
Oh. Well, isn't that something? They all wear dark sunglasses. It must be the aviator glasses, I think they call them. It must be a style thing or something, because even he's wearing glasses. Yeah, they all seem to be wearing glasses. Biden wears glasses too. Yeah, I don't know. That's sort of an odd thing. I don't know how many times I've seen the president wear sunglasses. Now I know this. Stephen Colbert used to tease all the time on his show about, the aviator glasses. I'd watch it. Yeah, Stephen Colbert live on tape. It's Saturday night. Yeah, from the Ed Sullivan Theater. Well, that's what it used to be. Well, anyway, there they are, the aviator glasses.
Biden better agree to debate, John, because Trump will not be letting him get away with that. Trump is already challenging Biden to debates now, saying, I'd like to debate him now, but Biden can't do it because he can't talk.
Wow, he can't do anything. Well, that's a pretty outlandish thing to say, don't you think, about the President of the United States? I'd like to debate him now because he should debate for the good of the country. He can't do it because he can't talk. He can't do anything, they say. Well, I just saw him now in that clip with aviator glasses, right? He looked pretty good then. I don't know. Let's read a little farther.
He can't do anything. So you can see he's going to tie the debates to Biden's age, of course. And if Biden shows any unwillingness to debate, Trump will not let it go.
Well, I don't think so. Well, we'd have to find out what Donald Trump has to say about it. I don't think he talked about age. I think he just said, well, it would be good for the country to debate. Yeah. Well, don't they have it all cinched up now anyway? Don't they, though? Isn't it all over? Why not have the election now? Oh, yeah, that's right. You have to wait for the election. Yeah, because you can't do it now in the United States. No, because it's always on the first Tuesday after the second Monday. Yeah, that is the date of the election. So that is when it is. That is when it is, and that's when it will be. Not on a certain numbered day. No, not the first, second, fifth, ninth. No, it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday. Yes. So, well, the soonest election could ever be would be November 2nd, because November 1st could be a Monday. So that's the first Monday. So then the first Tuesday after first Monday would be November 2nd. So the earliest it can ever be is November 2nd. It could never be on November 1st. Well, and then we can figure out the latest day it could be. Well, the latest a Monday can ever be is, drumroll please, November 7th. Yes. Monday, November 7th. So that could be the first Tuesday, first Monday. Because the first day of November could be Tuesday, which doesn't count. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This November 7th, Monday. So then the first Tuesday after the first Monday would be November 8th. So we know one thing in the United States. We don't know the number of the day. It could be anywhere from November 2nd to November 8th. That's the date. But the date doesn't count. So those are all the possible dates. Yes. Yeah. November 2nd to November 8th. It's a lot like Easter, you know. It moves around. I know they have this thing called a movable feast. Yeah, about food moving around in a truck or something. But no, it's a mover. Because, you know, Easter set, it's the it's the vernal equinox. No, the equinox in March. Yeah, right. The vernal equinox. With the first full moon after the thing in March, and then you count. Yeah, that's why Easter can move quite a bit, you know, depending on things. So anyway, it's a movable feast in the Catholic Church anyway, because it's always a feast thing. Yeah. It's a feast on Sunday too. Every Sunday's a feast day as well. Yeah. Well, it's the Holy Communion Day. So every Sunday's a feast day. But they have other days that are special. I know I digress, but it's all this calendar stuff. I know it gets confusing. Well, it's not complicated. It's just a little complex. But it's nothing too much that can't be figured out. So let's press on.
Oh, it would just be a dog with a bone. Biden would look terrible. So I find it odd that Biden's buddies seem to be leaning against Biden debating. Senate Democrat Whip Dick Durbin, for example, said, I would think twice about it. I've been physically present at one of Trump's debates with Hillary Clinton, and I watched him do outrageous things and say outrageous things. It's just an opportunity for him to display his extremism.
Wow. I've been physically present at one of Trump's debates. Oh, yeah, with Hillary Clinton. And I watched him do outrageous things and say outrageous things. It's just an opportunity for him to display his extremism. Yes. Well, she did run for president in 2016. Hillary Clinton did. Yeah. She had served as Hillary Clinton, Biden, and Obama were all in a race together. Yeah, for the Democratic nomination in 2016. Yes, they were. And there was a whole bunch of Republicans, too. I remember, I watched all the debates. There was a row of Democrats that their thing so big you couldn't get them on the stage, actually. Row of Republicans so big you couldn't get them all on the stage, actually. If it was anything, it was a circus. It was a circus royale. Yeah. Not Cirque du Soleil. No, not the circus of the sun. No, just a circus, of course, just a circus. Nor Blue Man Group either. No, not that. But it was. Yeah, and well, it ended up Hillary Clinton, Democratic candidate, and Donald Trump, Republican candidate. So they took it heads up, the two of them, they did. I think I probably watched every single debate between the two of them live. I'm sure I did. It was live, actually. Maybe it was live on tape. I don't know. Well, no, I think it's live. Well, anyway, I did. And then lo and behold, Donald Trump. He's the top. He's the Mona Lisa. Yeah, well, he won. Yeah, much to everybody's surprise. People were shocked out of their minds. Oh my gosh, people went crazy. They did. Oh my gosh, just crazy. They went crazy. But some people were cheered and were really happy too. So, well, that's how it is in politics. Yeah. Well, there's winners and losers, but no, not losers and winners. No, nobody's a loser, nobody's a winner. It's just an election. Yeah. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it, right? Yeah, be the president of the United States. Huh, I know. It's amazing so many people want it, you know. How much does it pay after all? I don't remember, but it doesn't seem like a lot for all you got to do. All the personal sacrifice and all that. Man, it's something. But, well, let's listen on.
And Biden's closest advisor, Senator Chris Coons, said, I'm not going to get ahead of myself on campaign strategy. But Coons said there was no reason to dignify Trump as a candidate by debating him, especially given Trump refused to debate any of his Republican opponents. Now,
Wow. Coons, Senator Coons. Isn't he the gentleman from Virginia? I know Dick Durbin's from Illinois. But isn't Chris Coons from Virginia? I think he is. He might be I don't know if he's the senior senator or the junior senator. I'm not sure. And that doesn't mean one's old and one's young. That just means the senior is the one, well, who's been there the longest. Yeah. So, well, if I'm running for Senate and there's somebody that's already the senator, and I'm running, and I win because it was an open seat, well, I'm automatically the junior one. And I'll be junior as long as the other senator is still holding the seat. Yeah, I will be. I'll always be junior. But they're never, yeah, well, it's just how it works. Yeah, because there's two. Well, whatever. It doesn't, something like that. Well, like Mitch McConnell. When he first became a United States Senator, he most likely was the junior senator. But he'd been there for so long now, from 1984 to now. Yeah, think about it. All these years. 2024. 40 years or something. Yeah. A U.S. Senator all that time. Imagine that. All those years. Yeah. Well, he announced that he's done. Yeah, he's done. Well, he's still holding his office. He's just not, he's going to retire, he says. Yeah. But he's still staying in his seat. Yeah. And imagine Biden. First ran for United States Senate in 1972, for gosh sakes. He was sitting in January of 1973. He was in the Senate when all the Watergate stuff was just getting to start heating up even. Yeah. He saw it all firsthand, a ringside seat. Boy, it's just amazing. It's just like, memories all alone in the moonlight, of my days in the sun. I remember what happiness brings, and the new day has begun. Something like that.
I think that would be a huge mistake if he followed their advice. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it is hypocritical.
It would be a huge mistake to not, if he followed the advice of Dick Durbin and Coons, if they're advising him that, to not debate, that would be a huge mistake. He has to. Well, how do you not? Yeah. Well, it would do several things. It would do right by the people of the United States, and for that matter, the rest of the world. Remember, well, the President of the United States election, well, it's of interest around the world. It has been. Granted, nobody else gets to vote, but it has been of interest. It has. Just like, well, what happens in other countries is of interest. Yeah, it always is. Of course it is. Yes. But remember something. This program I'm watching, well, it's out of Australia. They're Australian. Yeah. Well, obviously this is all of interest to Australia, or at least the news media in Australia, because, well, this is a news program out of Australia that I'm watching now, so obviously it is. Yeah, it is. It is. Well, it's one thing, you know what? Well, I'm not doing a news program. No, I'm just Ronnie Ward. I'm making this video, yeah. Well, right now I'm up here, but here, watch this. Now I'm just down here in this corner. So, I know it seems rude, but I'm not being rude. I know I've said this before. Well, here, I'll just put myself in the middle. I like being in the middle of it all. Yeah, I'll just sit here for a minute. So let's see. Okay, let's turn it back on. Oh, here we go.
Typical of Trump to turn around and say, oh, yes, he must debate me after I refuse to debate my rivals for the Republican nomination. The other thing that Trump is, well, certainly going against conventional wisdom. Usually in presidential debates, both sides are claiming underdog status, saying, oh, well, my opponent is such a gifted debater, a professional politician.
Well, you know what? Well, if I was in the parliament, in London, I might say, here, 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 or something like that. I'm not what you say in Australia. I'm not sure what it is. But you know what? For two blokes who are definitely Australian, perhaps not even familiar with election, whatever, in America, United States. Well, that covers almost everybody in the United States, too, who aren't very, yeah. But it's a very complex thing, this thing in the United States elections. But I can say this. I've lived here my whole life. I'm a bit of a political junkie, as they would say. But you know what? Well, that's not quite what debates are in the United States. No one's the underdog. No one's the upper dog. Nah, no one's the big dog, little dog. No, it's not Dr. Seuss. Big dog, little dog, go. No, none of that. It's just, well, you know, it's just something they do. There used to be, the debates always used to be managed and operated by a special commission thing. Well, a thing. The League of Women Voters, for example, and others. There's a special organization about debates to make sure that things were done a certain way. Yeah, to be neutral and whatever. It wasn't even media. It wasn't. But anyway, well, let's listen on. I'll put you like Jack Spratt. I'll go back up here in the corner. Yeah, that way I can, look down at him. Yeah, here we go.
I'm but a humble, speaker of truths. He's saying that Joe Biden literally cannot speak.
Yes.
I mean, that is exceeding the expectation.
That's what he's saying, all right. That is what Donald Trump's saying. Literally cannot. Yeah. Well, I think Donald Trump has something going if he actually says that. I don't know exactly. I haven't heard it come out of Donald Trump's mouth. It's just reported on here. That's all. Well, I've got to go look it up, and see what Donald Trump has to say about it. Yeah, I don't really know. It's interesting, so I'm going to, well, that's why I watch. So I watch news out of Australia or India or South Africa or European countries, Russia, for God's sakes, China, and even Iran. Yes, you can even get news out of Iran. Yeah, wherever you want, you can find it. It's everywhere. Yeah, like savoir-faire. Well, let's listen on.
Bar right down there.
Yeah.
So, for Joe Biden, unless he really is physically and mentally impaired come October, November, of course he should debate. And he'll do very, very well. That being said, even though Biden...
No, Donald Trump, if the quote's right, now. Well, if it's all cinched up and decided, why not debate now then? Well, isn't it just Joe Biden going to be on the ticket for Democrats and Donald Trump for Republicans? That's what's been reported in news media all throughout the United States. Well, if that's the case, then why not debate now? Today, next week, schedule it. Yeah. Why don't we put the schedule together starting now? Why don't we debate before each party even has its national conventions, which is not till June? Yeah. Well, what are we going to be doing between now and June? Tiddlywinks or something? Pick up sticks or, I don't know, hopscotch, Foursquare? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Just swinging on swing set? I don't know. Merry-go-round, slide? I don't know. Recess or something? Play? I don't know. Why not?
Biden did better than a lot of people expected in last week's State of the Union. The point at which Biden didn't do so well was when he was getting consistently heckled by Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. Sometimes in a senatorial style interjection, he can bat them away quite playfully.
Well, I don't know that I really remember. I watched the whole broadcast. I did. Of the Biden. Well, President Biden appeared before the Congress in a joint session and delivered remarks. Yeah, he never said it was a State of Union. No, all the media said it was. And I saw it on graphics that said it was. Well, just because the media says it, and well, if the media says it, and they all say it, and they all said the same things, really, then I definitely don't want to just believe it because they all said it. No, and it's really weird. They all agreed on the same things. It seemed like they all did. Well, that's really odd. Well, even Fox said it was a State of the Union, and so did MSNBC. Can you be any farther apart than those? But they both said the same thing there. Well, they did. So, I mean, I'm not sure. But anyway. Well, just because they say it's something doesn't mean it is. But they're using a special word. Yeah. State of the Union. Yeah, so anyway, here we go.
But if somebody is going at him, and then he tries to think of a clever response, and then he gets a bit flustered, can't find the words, etc., he's not at his best. He can't. So, yeah, absolutely, Donald Trump could hector and pester Joe Biden into looking like a doddering fool. That's the risk for him. So there is definitely a danger.
I think you're right about that. What Trump's tactic will be, he will definitely be trying to hector him and put him off his game. He tried that in 2020 as well, and at times he did put him off his game, but it just didn't matter in the long run. I think you've nailed the critical point though, and as expectations. Debates aren't about who wins the debate. Everyone thinks.
Yeah, well, 2020. Yeah, hindsight's 2020. And they had a program on ABC News called 2020. They do, but 2020. I'm not so sure what happened in 2020. No, not really. Well, that was the year of the beginning of the health crisis. I refuse to say pandemic. I refuse to say COVID because those are just words. I just say a health crisis. There was a health crisis, economic crisis. There's a school crisis. There was a crisis in each and every single way you can imagine. So I just call it the year of the crisis. Yes. For me, March 8th, 2020. That's when it started. Yeah. Different dates for different people. Just depending on when it rolled out and affected you. Yeah, it was a rolling kind of a thing, I think. Something like that, Yeah. Message creep, virus creep, something. I don't know. Well, anyway, that's when it was. It's hard for me to remember exactly what happened in 2020. It is. I have to really scratch my head. Yeah. Maybe that'll help me remember it. Maybe I need to scratch my knee, though. Maybe that'll help me remember it. Well, I'm just trying to find my brain. If I only had a brain. Yeah, just got a diploma instead. Oh, okay, that's great.
Their side won the debate.
Yes.
What matters is, do you meet the expectations? And in Joe Biden's case, the expectations could not be lower. Yeah. So you know that he's going to clear the bar just by turning up and not tripping over the corner of the stage.
Biden famously said in that first debate, the most memorable thing about it was, will you just shut up, man? So he just needs to have a zinger like that to try and put Trump in his place briefly. Polls showed that people didn't really like the kind of amped up, it turns out COVID positive version of Donald Trump that turned up at that first debate. But I am always mindful of the famous quote from the late comedian George Carlin, who said, never argue with an idiot because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you on experience. That's the problem with debating Trump, because it's kind of becomes a pox on both of your houses. And then, of course, the question is it a three-way debate with Robert Kennedy, which is something we're going to look at as well, because Robert Kennedy right now is doing very strongly in the polls against both Biden and Trump. If you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polls for a three-way contest, Trump leads Biden by over 4 points, while Kennedy wins 15% support, and that is the magic number.
Wow, that's a striking number for Robert Kennedy Jr., by the way. Yeah, that's a striking number. It is a striking number. Well, let's listen on. I just love watching this show. It's just once a week, though. But I look forward to it on Friday. Well, it's Saturday now, but anyway, I do. I have a little reminder that comes on to help me remember to watch it. Yeah, it's a good thing, yeah.
that should qualify Kennedy to take part in the presidential debates.
Yeah, and importantly, when you take RFK out of those polls, the lead for Trump goes from 4.3 points to 1.8 points. So Kennedy's presence helps Trump by 2.5 points.
We've been down this third-party thing road before. Yeah. Actually, the first time of a presidential election was 92. Yeah. The year that George H.W. Bush was running for a second term. Yeah. And because George H.W. Bush had been president for 4 years, from 88 to 92. But before that, he'd been the vice president. Yeah. From 80 to 88, he was the vice president for Ronald Reagan. And then he ran in his own right and was there for 4 years as president. Yeah. And, And then 92 came, and, Bill Clinton ended up being the Democratic nominee, and George H.W. Bush ended up being the Republican nominee. But for the president, there was a third party. There was. I don't remember the name of the party, but it was on every ballot anyway. I'm pretty sure they were on every ballot in every state, yeah. But it was Ross Perot, I think, yeah, was the president on the ticket, and James B. Stockdale was the vice president on the ticket. And I can remember they had debates. They had a vice presidential debate that was, it would have been, Al Gore, because he was the running mate with Clinton, and then James Stockdale as the running mate for Ross Perot, and George H.W. Bush. Ooh, gosh. I don't really remember his running mate that year. I'm not sure. I don't remember that. It's just escaped me. I think if I wiggle my little toe on my pinky toe on my right foot, that might help me remember. Because that might be the connector to my brain. I might find it there. But anyway, that's too far for me to reach right now. So I'll just have to say, I don't remember.
Over Biden. And here's why. As we've said before, the critical group are the so-called double haters. About 15 to 20% of the electorate hates both Trump and Biden. And the latest USA Today poll shows 25% of the double haters support Trump, 18% support Biden, 21% of them support Kennedy, more than the share that support Biden. That is where he loses that extra few percent to Trump, John. Although, interestingly, even though only about 1 in 4 surveyed people overall said that they might change their minds before November, 75% of RFK Jr. supporters said that they might change their minds. So you can see how his numbers might erode, as often happens with independent candidates as we near an election.
Indeed. Robert F. Kennedy has announced that he has...
USA Today poll shows 25% of the double haters support Trump, 18% support Biden, 21% of them support Kennedy, more than the share that support Biden. That is where he loses that extra few percent to Trump, John. Although, interestingly, even though only about...
Okay, here we go.
1 in 4 surveyed people overall said that they might change their minds before November,
All right.
75% of RFK Jr. supporters said that they might change their minds. So you can see how his numbers might erode.
Yeah, but what about Jill Stein? Yeah, what about Jill Stein?
People overall said that they might change their minds before November. 75%.
There we go. And 94% of Jill Stein supporters. That signals the potential erosion. Oh, Jill Stein. Oh, is Jill Stein still in the race? Is she in the race on the Green Party or something? I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But she was on the ticket for the... She was. Was she? Oh, I think so. It's one of those proverbial running things or something, I think. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Yeah.
Of RFK Jr. supporters said that they might change their minds. So you can see how his numbers might erode, as often happens with independent candidates as we near an election.
Yeah, indeed. Robert F. Kennedy has announced that he has already selected his vice presidential running mate, and he will
that support Biden. That is where he loses that extra few percent to Trump, John. Although, interestingly, even though only about 1 in 4 surveyed people overall said that they might change their minds before November, 75% of RFK Jr.
Jill Steinsberg. That's the potential erosion that independent candidates often see as election day nears. Most of those now backing a third-party candidate said they were open to changing their minds. Among them, 75 Robert and 94 Jill Stein. So there's at least two people seeking to be an independent candidate. Kennedy and Stein, is that what it says? Yeah, that's what it says.
Supporters said that they might change their minds. So you can see how his numbers might erode, as often happens with independent candidates as we near an election.
Yeah, indeed. Robert F. Kennedy has announced that he has already selected his vice presidential running mate, and he will make an announcement towards the end of the month. The Washington Post this week reporting that Kennedy has
said that they might change their minds before November. 75% of RFK Jr. supporters said that they might change their minds. So you can see how his numbers might erode, as often happens with independent candidates as we near an election.
Yeah, indeed. Robert F. Kennedy has announced that he has already selected his vice presidential running mate, and he will make an announcement towards the end of the month. The Washington Post this week reporting that Kennedy has spoken with NFL quarterback
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has selected running mate. Well, it's in 2 weeks.
Aaron Rodgers and former independent Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura. Now, Aaron Rodgers, not particularly well known in this country, but he is a very well-known footballer in the United States. He is also well known as a COVID vaccine skeptic. He claimed that he'd been immunised against the disease, which allowed him to keep playing under NFL rules, but then he later disclosed actually he hadn't been vaccinated. He had instead taken ivermectin. That's the drug typically used to worm livestock. Well, it has no effect on COVID, but he says, that was good enough for me to be immune. He does sound perfect for Kennedy. Jesse Ventura as well, you might recall, he's the pro wrestler turned independent governor of Minnesota, who arguably helped to blaze a trail for other celebrity anti-politicians like Arnold Schwarzenegger and even Donald Trump, I suppose. Kennedy has reportedly also spoken to a list of other potential VPs, including former Democratic presidential candidates Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, even motivational speaker Tony Robbins. Kennedy does need to nominate a vice president in order to qualify for the ballot in several states. So this is not just a hypothetical exercise. There is a reason that he needs to do this right now, as well as building up a sense of anticipation, a bit of showbiz around it, and there's also, a lot at stake when it comes to picking a vice presidential candidate for any candidate, independent or major party. It is the first major decision for any candidate for the White House. Sometimes it can provide them with balance, maybe help them win an important state or an important demographic. Race and gender are often considerations as well to balance out the ticket.
Well, I do appreciate the gentleman from Australia, of course, but who the vice president might be, that's never done until the convention in the United States. Yeah. You never know. at all until at the convention. Toward the end of the convention, yeah. And then, well, it's one of those mystery things. It is. Well, you just don't know until the convention. It's one of the last things you ever know. Because they have to make a deal. It's like Monty Hall. Let's make a deal. Lots of things factor in. Many of the very things that is being mentioned right now, all these kinds of things, yes, but you don't find out. Because that's two parties, the Democratic Convention and the Republican Convention. Well, we don't have a provision in this country for a third party. No, we don't. So I don't know what happens with Robert Kennedy Jr. or Jill Stein. I really don't know. They have to get on the ballot, but it's not the same. No. I'm not saying it's lesser. I'm just saying it's designed, well, not on purpose, but parties aren't mentioned in the Constitution. They're not. In fact, George Washington was against parties and factions, but, well, we still have them anyway. So, yeah, well, anyway, that's the deal. Okay. That's why it's so complex. Yes, for anybody anywhere else and people right here in the United States too. It's complex. Yeah. I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty familiar. Because, well, I participate. Anyway, here we go.
Their area of expertise, like Joe Biden, who helped to allay concerns that Barack Obama was too young and lacked foreign policy experience in 2008. That was the year as well that John McCain made a pretty fateful choice, choosing Sarah Palin as his running mate. For a time, it looked like a masterstroke, a game changer. But then, with remarks like this, you might recall with Katie Couric, it kind of backfired.
What newspapers and magazines did you regularly read before you were tapped for this to stay informed and to understand the
I've
world?
read most of them, again, with a great appreciation for the press, for the media.
Like what one specifically, I'm curious that you...
all of them, any of them that have been in front of me over all these years.
And it was in 1992 that businessman Ross Perot was running as an independent presidential candidate. He wanted somebody with foreign policy chops, so he picked retired Admiral Jim Stockdale. He was a highly decorated Vietnam War veteran. He'd been held prisoner of war, spent 4 years in solitary confinement. He was a war hero, but in his 1992 VP debate against Al Gore and Dan Quayle, well, Stockdale tried to introduce himself to voters, and he began in a rather memorable way with this opening statement.
Admiral Stockdale, your opening statement, please, sir.
Who am I? Why am I here? I'm not a politician. Everybody knows that. So don't expect me to use the language of the Washington Insider. 37 years in the Navy, and only one of them up there in Washington. And now I'm an academic.
It wasn't a bad start, but his performance in the rest...
Well, yes. Well, yes. Well, yeah. He was an academic at Stanford University, yes. But that was after a long, long career, though. Well, you know. Well, he was the lead plane in the first squadron to fly off the aircraft carrier to fly into Vietnam. The leader, yeah. Shot down and remained in Vietnam as a prisoner of war until 1973, when they were all freed. That Richard Nixon did, yes. And then after that, well, then he had some other honors and things. President of the War College. I mean, just all you have to do is look around the United States. People in the Navy, they all know James B. Stockdale. His name's on building and this and that and all kinds of stuff. And then he ended up at Stanford University. In fact, he was an academic. He was. Books, philosophy, all kinds of things, yeah. Well, his record stands for itself. It does. And he was treated terribly by the media as well. Just as bad as Sarah Palin had been treated. Yeah. It's like the media didn't care that he was a war hero. They weren't very nice to John McCain either. And he was a war hero. Well, he wouldn't say he was a hero, but he was in the Hanoi Hotel as well. So was John McCain. With James B. Stockdale. Yeah, he was. Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, they've got their history right on these things. This is a good program. They got it square. They got it square. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
The debate was pretty terrible. He at one point even asked the moderator to repeat a question because he'd turned his hearing aid off. So he became the butt of a lot of old man jokes, and that sort of, who am I, what am I doing here, took on a whole other meaning, and it was pretty difficult for him. He just wasn't ready for prime time, unfortunately. In 1968 as well, a choice that backfired, segregationist third-party presidential candidate George Wallace tapped as his VP Curtis LeMay. Now, LeMay had been in charge of the US firebombing campaign in Japan towards the end of World War II, and he was a strong advocate for using nuclear weapons in both Korea and then against North Vietnam.
Oh, look at that. The choices we make always come back to haunt us, right? They do. Let's just run this back a minute.
I'm not a politician, everybody knows that. So don't expect me to use the language of the Washington Insider. 37 years in the Navy, and only one of them up there in Washington. And now I'm an academic.
It wasn't a bad start, but his performance in the rest of the debate was pretty terrible. He at one point even asked the moderator to repeat a question because he'd turned his hearing aid off. So he became the butt of a lot of old man jokes, and that sort of, who am I, what am I doing here, took on a whole other meaning, and it was pretty difficult for him. He just wasn't ready for prime time, unfortunately. In 1968 as well, a choice that backfired, segregationist third-party presidential candidate George Wallace tapped as his VP Curtis LeMay. Now, LeMay...
Curtis LeMay. Okay, Curtis LeMay.
...had been in charge of the US firebombing campaign in Japan towards the end of World War II, and he was a strong advocate for using nuclear weapons in both Korea and then against North Vietnam. So to many, he came across as a dangerous warmonger. He was, in fact, the inspiration for Dr. Strangelove. So these people that you think are going to help you, sometimes, if they're not ready for prime time or they're just revealed to be a bit of an extremist, it can become a problem.
Certainly can. Well, let's look at the potential problem here, which I think people are expecting Aaron Rodgers to say yes.
Who's coming to the end of his football career? He's had some injuries and so on.
He likes the sound of his own voice. He's the other guys, by the way, Kennedy said no. So he's been forced into this kind of choice between Jesse Ventura and Aaron Rodgers.
Although Tulsi Gabbard is saying it today, she's just saying, it'd be an honour to be selected. So even though she hosted a fundraiser for Trump last week, she's still going, Robert F. Kennedy, you know my number.
Well, the thing is that Aaron Rodgers is an extremely charismatic individual.
Right.
He certainly has some wacky theories.
Yes.
I mean, you only mentioned one or two of them. Like, there's also the one where he's got wacky theories about Sandy Hook as well, Alex Jones-style theories.
Right.
He's also got the theory that part of his recovery apparently is listening to dolphin sex sounds.
Really?
Yes, apparently he says that's...
Where does he get the dolphins?
I don't want to know. Like, he has some fruity ideas.
Yeah.
He, quite famously, when he met one of his fellow quarterbacks, Deshaun Kaiser, he said this.
Shut the door, and the first thing that comes out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth was, "Do you believe in 9/11?" What? Do I believe in 9/11? Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't I? He was like, "You should read up on that." Okay.
So that's Aaron Rodgers. But having said that, he is one of the great footballers, and that matters in America.
And his personal appeal seems to mean that, yes, he's got some goofy conspiracy theories, but it's almost seen as a quirk. He's well liked despite that, in the way that someone like Alex Jones is certainly not.
Yeah, he's got a sense of humour about them as well. Some of these theories of his, you're never quite sure if he's serious or not. Like, he is quite funny. He's quite lackadaisical. He's the average kind of a guy.
Right.
Like,
deliberately provocative.
Yeah, like, so, and he is charismatic, like I said. So I could see him winning a lot of votes. I don't think people should write him off, all because of these ridiculous theories.
Interesting.
Also, he does fit the RFK brand. RFK himself is a pretty weird kind of candidate.
Yeah, he said that the CIA killed his father and his uncle, John F. Kennedy. He's also cast doubts over 9/11, and of course, most famously, Kennedy has questioned the effectiveness of vaccines, not just COVID. He was an anti-vaxxer before it was fashionable.
But the other thing about RFK is that, once again, much like Aaron Rodgers, really, he's just an everyday person. He comes off as a nice guy. In fact, he comes off a lot nicer than Aaron Rodgers, to be honest. He comes off as a really, really pleasant, nice guy who approaches things in a way that a normal politician wouldn't. Like, for instance, let's say you're accused of palling around with Jeffrey Epstein, and you admit that you did.
I don't need to hear these again.
I'm going to keep on bringing up these allegations, John.
I've answered these in the past.
The internet is very clear about you. Anyway, let's say that you're accused of that. What you probably shouldn't do is defend yourself by saying something like this.
You run into everybody in New York. I mean, I knew Harvey Weinstein. I knew Roger Ailes. I knew O.J. Simpson came to my house. Bill Cosby came to my house.
You shouldn't say, I pal around with every sexual abuser. That's a weird response, but that's RFK. He just comes off as a non-politician, and that is his attraction. By the way, you may know who tweeted that clip out, a lady by the name of Liz Smith. Get used to seeing clips from her because the DNC is building its first team to counter third-party and independent presidential candidates. And who have they hired to be part of it? But Democratic operative Liz Smith. So expect to be seeing a lot more clips where that came from, especially with these guys.
Yeah, Liz Smith last seen on this program when she was involved in Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign, and they obviously used a lot of social media in that effort as well. I mean, looking at Robert F. Kennedy as well, it's very interesting to see, if he didn't have that neurological condition that has affected his voice so badly, I think he would be a chance of getting 15 to 20% of the vote. I think the difficulty for him is going to be, as well as his sometimes crazy ideas, is that he's very, very hard to listen to. It's very hard for him to get through a speech. It'll be hard for him to get through a debate. He doesn't sound particularly well. He does sound damaged, and given that there's clearly some trauma in forming some of the weird ideas that he has, I think it could well be that he will be fairly comprehensively destroyed and demonised by the Democrats, who do see him quite rightly right now as a major threat, a greater threat to Biden than he is to Trump.
They are coming for him, but all I'd say is he's unlikely to be making a lot of speeches. He's much more likely to be doing podcasts.
Yeah,
he's coming through it from a different angle to a normal campaign.
Yeah, very
interesting. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, indeed. This week on Planet America, we spoke to former Democratic Congressman Joe Cunningham. He's now the National Director of No Labels. It's a centrist political group. It's chair...
Oh, yeah, No Labels. I know. It reminds me of the Know Nothings. Yeah, the Know Nothing Party. Yeah, I think they were around before Abraham Lincoln or something a while. The Know Nothings, there was a party called. Now we have the No Labels, for gosh sakes. I know. Make America great. Well, how many presidents? Well, Reagan liked America great. Well, Roosevelt, doesn't everybody want America to be great? I don't know, but I remember the Know Nothings. Well, I don't remember. I read about those, yeah. That was a party before Abraham Lincoln, for gosh sakes. Yeah, it was real simple. Well, if you went up to somebody and said, oh, well, aren't you part of it? They'd say, I know nothing. Know Nothings, yeah. Reminds me of Sergeant Schultz, on Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing, I see nothing. Yeah, Sergeant Schultz, Captain Clink and all that stuff. Yeah, I know. They used to have it on the TV, It's just a show, a comedy show, That's all I know. I watched it growing up. That's all I can say. Whatever, It was a comedy show, whatever. But the Know Nothings, yeah, that was another party. It wasn't a party, whatever it was. But now we have the No Labels. Boy, oh gosh. History's just a little bit of repeat. Yeah, right. Dame Bessie, yeah. Dame Bessie out of England, yeah.
Led by former Democrat Senator and Vice Presidential nominee Joe Lieberman, who quit the Democratic Party and became an independent. He supported John McCain's presidential campaign when he was running as a Republican. So these are kind of cross-party folks. No Labels is pushing ahead with a plan to run a unity presidential ticket this year with one sound particularly well. He does sound damaged, and given that there's clearly some folks, No Labels comprehensively destroyed and demonised by the Democrats, who do see him quite rightly right now as a major threat, a greater threat to Biden than he is to Trump.
They are coming for him, but all I'd say is he's unlikely to be making a lot of speeches. He's much more likely to be doing podcasts.
Yeah.
That he's coming through it from a different angle to a normal campaign.
Yeah, very
so we'll see how that
interesting.
goes.
Yeah, indeed. This week on Planet America, we spoke to former Democratic Congressman Joe Cunningham. He's now the National Director of No Labels. It's a centrist political group. It's chaired by former Democrat Senator and Vice Presidential nominee Joe Lieberman, who quit the Democratic Party and became an independent. He supported John McCain's presidential campaign when he was running as a Republican. So these are kind of cross-party folks. No Labels is pushing ahead with a plan to run a unity presidential ticket this year, with one Republican and one Democrat on it. Now, several prominent centrists have flirted with the idea of running a No Labels ticket. They've all taken a pass so far. West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, a Republican, have thought about it and ultimately said no. Well, Joe Cunningham told us this week that No Labels is only going to run a candidate for presidency if they think that candidate can win. And they are prepared to pull the...
Then why would they even start out then? Why start? I find it amazing that Joe Lieberman, the junior senator from Connecticut for a while, I just find it shocking that Joe Lieberman is still involved in politics at all, for God's sakes. Well, why isn't he totally retired? Well, I know he has children and all. Why isn't he just enjoying time with his family, for God's sakes? Why would he be getting back involved with anything? Yeah, gosh, I remember Joe Lieberman from back in the days of being in Connecticut myself. Well, why isn't he with his family? That's what I wonder.
On that campaign if they think the ticket is not viable as we get towards September, October and the election in November. Although how they would do that once the candidates are on the ballot is a little bit unclear. And it's also very unclear as to whether there are any guardrails against the...
No. Already now. Today. Well, you have to get on the ballot by state, by state, by state. It's nearly impossible for a third-party person to do any of this. Yeah, Ralph Nader would do it. He did it all the time. But he'd been at it forever. He's the original third-party candidate running on consumerism. Ralph Nader, Consumer Reports. He's the guy that called out all the problems. I think he started out with seatbelts or car glass or something like that. He's the reason we have NHTSA now, the National Insurance Institute for Highway Safety thing. That's Ralph Nader. He's the original third-party person. He always was forever and ever and ever. Every 4 years, and he never won anything. No, but his purpose wasn't to win. His purpose was to be a voice for consumers. That's what he did. Well, that's what's so weird about all these other people today. Well, why are they running? I mean, they're all recycled politicians. That's why it makes no sense. They don't stand for anything, except they don't. Well, Ralph Nader stood for something. Everybody knew it. That's fine. He wasn't going to win, and he knew it. It wasn't the point. Same thing sort of with Jill Stein, too. But all this other, I don't know. I'm shocked about Joe Lieberman. I really am shocked about that. Boy, why isn't he with his family, for God's sakes? That's all I want to know. Yeah, why not?
No Labels campaign being hijacked as an effort to either hurt or help Biden or Trump. Here's more of what Joe had to tell us.
Well, I expect that to be flushed out through the interviewing process and vetting.
Wait, who is this again? Joe Cunningham. Okay.
And the election in November. Although how they would do that once the candidates are on the ballot is a little bit unclear. And it's also very unclear as to whether there are any guardrails against the No Labels campaign being hijacked as an effort to either hurt or help Biden or Trump. Here's more of what Joe had to tell us.
Well, I expect that to be flushed out through the interviewing process and vetting. Again, we're looking to offer this ballot line to a ticket that we believe can win outright. And we think the appetite is there as well, based upon polling that we've done, tracking that we've done. So It's not like we're interested in going through all this effort, a year and a half of gaining ballot access.
A year and a half of gaining ballot access. Really? Well, you'd have to check in every single state. Yeah, you'd have to. In every state. Well, I don't know. First time I've heard from Joe Cunningham or know of Joe Cunningham myself. I don't know. It's always interesting, politics in America. Of course. But this third party, whatever the stuff is, I don't know. Well, it's not like a group can... How this is being described, it's not like a group of people does the work to reserve a place on a ballot, like you reserve a table in a restaurant and then people come. It doesn't work like that at all, but it's a state by state thing and there's different rules in all those states. So it's not like there's one way to do it either, but you have to declare a candidate. Like the candidate has to have it. Yeah, they do. Oh, this is why it doesn't work to do this in the United States. It's not intended to be working. No, it's all set up for two parties. Yeah, Republican and Democrat. Well, not that it's in the Constitution, but boy, it's been this way a long time. Yeah, well, there was a four-way race even in one of the years for Lincoln, too. A four-way race. Yeah. Well, there was. Yeah. Well, you can trace all the parties back to Lincoln. Yeah. The modern day Republican Party is Lincoln's party. Yeah. It's Lincoln's party. Because that's where it started. With Lincoln. Yeah. That's why it's Lincoln's party. That's why the Young Republicans is the Log Cabin Society. Log Cabin, Abraham Lincoln and Log Cabin. Yeah. It's called the Grand Old Party. Well, it's Lincoln's party. The Republicans are. Not the Republicans today ideologically. No. But the party is. Well, the year Wallace and that four-way race, the year of 68, the big four-way race, yeah, Democrats, it was Wallace, wild conservative, Humphrey, super liberal, Democrats. Republican was, well, it was Nixon. It was Nixon. And was it Goldwater again? It might have been Goldwater again in 68. Yeah. But four-way race in 68. Yeah. Well, that's the time when the Republicans, who had been the Republicans in the South, no, they'd been the Democrats in the South. Yeah. The Dixie Democrats. The Democrats in the South were the ones for segregation and separatism and all of that. They had been since Abraham Lincoln, because the party of Lincoln was the Republicans that were for the Union, keeping the country together. But the Democrats were in the South, and they were for cessationism and all that stuff. And it stayed that way all the way to like 68. And then that's when the switcheroo happened. Well, in the South, the separatists, segregationists, had always been Democrat, all changed their party affiliation to Republicans. And then they all became Republicans, keeping the ideology that they had had since Lincoln's time. They just changed party names. It was a flip. Yeah. That's what they all did. En masse. All of them did. So that meant then that the Republican Party by name was the party of Lincoln, but ideology-wise, which counts, what you stand for, was segregationism, separatism of the Democrats the Dixie Democrats that had always been in the South. That is like really, really, really complex. I mean, there's not a lot of folks around, not that I'm so smart, but there's not a lot of folks around who can even explain that whole thing at all. And that's it, the gist of it, right there. Well, there's people that run around trying to say that this switcheroo, this flip-flop of Republicans, that flop, there are people who want to blame it on Nixon. Yeah, they do. They want to call it the Nixon strategy. No, there was no such thing. Not for running in 68, there wasn't. No. But, Nixon did do this. He did have a strategy after he became president of the South. Yeah. Sending folks from Washington down to the South and say, listen, you either do desegregation and do right by kids in these towns, or we're going to cut off all your federal aid. Because the federal government, it's our money, we're paying for it, so you're going to follow federal rules. If you don't want to follow federal rules, fine, then you're not going to take federal dollars. You pay for all the education and go ahead and do what you want to do. But as long as you're taking federal dollars, you're going to do as the federal government said. Because, well, the golden rule. The person who has the gold sets the rules. Very simple. That was a strategy of Nixon, but not the switcheroo flip. No, not at all. Well, I mean, I'm an attorney by training, and I do politics and undergrad, and I've lived this stuff my whole life, read and all kinds of things. So, I'm familiar anyway. But plus I'm from Illinois. I know a lot about Abraham Lincoln. You can't not be from Illinois and not know about Abraham Lincoln. Everybody learns about Abraham Lincoln in Illinois. Well, he's only the greatest president there's ever been from Illinois. I don't know if there's ever been another president from Illinois. Yeah, not Barack Obama. He was a senator from Illinois. Well, technically, Lincoln grew up in Kentucky, but he's really from Illinois. Well, Springfield, Illinois is where Lincoln's tomb is, where he was buried with his wife and his kids. Yeah, that's his tomb. Yeah. But his memorial's in Washington, D.C., down there at the end of the mall, that giant big building. Yeah, that blots out looking across. You can see across the Potomac. No. Well, that's his memorial. Well, he sits there in the giant big chair looking out from back in there, looking up there toward what? The Lincoln Dome on top of the Capitol. That's the dome that was being built that he made sure got finished besides fight a civil war and everything else. Yeah. All that. A big tall guy as it is, and then he wore a big stovetop hat on top of that. Yeah, he did. Whatever. I don't know. Well, he's still always, in any poll you do in the United States, if you ask about the greatest presidents, it's always Washington or Lincoln. Washington, Lincoln, neck and neck. Nobody else even comes close. That's it, those two. And guess what? They're the only two who have memorials and monuments on the mall that you can see with the Capitol itself. Yeah, the Capitol, the shining light on the hill with Lincoln's dome, and the Constitution that Washington was the president over the debate in Philadelphia, and then his monument stands there. But it's just off a little bit to the side. It's not in a straight line, though. No, if you stood at the top of the steps of the Lincoln Memorial where Lincoln is and looked, you have an unobstructed view exactly to the dome. You couldn't have the Monument of Washington in that same line. Well, you would obscure the view, though, from Lincoln to the dome. So Washington is there as a monument, yes. Of course, yes. But it's an obelisk, though. But it does have an elevator in it. That ought to tell you something. It has an elevator in it. You have to think about elevator technology. And it has windows in the top of it, too, that you can see out. It does. That should tell you something about when it was built and why. And we know one thing, the stone is 2 different colors because they started building it and they had to stop and start again. And when they started and stopped, they couldn't get the same stone from the quarry where they had started, which simply means that when they started it, they didn't order all the stone block at once for the whole project. Because had they ordered the stone block all at once from the same project, it would have all matched. But they didn't even do that. No. Well, the quarry for all this it's all in the United States. A lot of it's up in, I think, New Hampshire, Vermont, or I don't know. There's not that many places where you can quarry those stones either. Well, they all match on Lincoln's memorial. Because you have a memorial, a monument, and da-da. Yeah. And the Capitol, they all match. They do. Well, it shows you just things are different, that's all.
To simply just throw sand in the gears. We set out in this and very clearly that we're going to wait till Super Tuesday, find it.
We've already had Super Tuesday. We had it. Okay. Well, what's up? What's up, Super Tuesday? I just love the technology. Yeah, because it lets you zoom in, you know? Yeah. Let me put myself down here a minute. Well, that's even a strange kind of a... everybody has their own idea. I'm not criticizing. I'm not. It's like I'm just not. But the border. Well, whatever. Look at me. I'm floating around a little bubble or something. Like I'm Glinda, the Good Witch of the North or something, floating around in a bubble. Yeah. Anyway, well, I'm not criticizing. No. Heck, people are going to laugh at me probably from floating around in my little bubble. I think so. Ooh, here I'll float. There we go. Here I am. Right here. Okay.
Now, if America was happy with these presumptive nominees, and if they weren't, and if we could find a ticket put forward, we'd offer it. Now, if it goes on and we come to the conclusion that America is happy with these 2 choices, then that's something we can, we can bridge that gap later on. But as it stands now, America's not happy, and the ticket that we would put forward.
Who is America? Is America happy? Is America sad? Oh, happy, sad. America sad emoji. America happy emoji. America scowl emoji. I don't know. I just, I don't know this person at all. I don't, but lots of people talk like this. It's like, no, not America. Well, people have sad, happy. Yeah, it's just problematic. That's all. Yeah.
We would hope it would be a ticket that could win.
The centre-left political organisation Third Way has been raising the alarm about the potential impact of a no-labels candidate. They maintain while they have no chance of winning, it could well hand the election to Donald Trump. We spoke to Kate de Gruyter.
Third Way? third way. I've heard of people for the American way, which is like the last guy, America not being happy, and this people third way. I've heard of people for the American way. That was a Norman Lear, and I asked something. I don't know. Something. I don't know. My goodness. Boy, this is like, ooh, I have to really scrape down to the very bottom of the old memory barrel to even, like, try to even think about. I can't anyway. Well, let's see what they have to say.
Ways Director of Communications.
Would you say you've already done your job by scaring off the big name candidates for no labels? I mean, who cares what no labels do with some no name candidate that nobody's going to vote for?
We've been working very hard to make that case publicly, and we have absolutely seen a...
Hang on, let me get rid of the closed captions. Just a second. Here we go. Oops, there they go. They're gone now. Just a minute. Gotta run it back. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. Katie de Groter, Communications Director of The Third Way. The Third Way. Well, look out for the third rail. Yeah, the third rail. The third rail of politics. Or the third rail of the Underground Electrified Railroad in New York, the subway. Well, the third rail is the rail that carries the power on it. Yeah, watch out for the third rail of politics. Well, there used to be one. It was Social Security, for God's sakes. The third rail of politics. The one thing nobody could ever touch or mess with or do anything to because it was sheer disaster, Social Security. The one thing that was from Roosevelt that you just couldn't ever, like MC Emmer said, don't touch this. Yeah, that's it. You couldn't. I don't know. That stopped too. Oh, that stopped for everybody in Washington. They don't even think about any of that anymore. They don't even have a third rail for anything. Yeah, they don't. Because I think there's not enough electricity left to put through a third rail. Yeah, I think it's really bad for electricity. Can't get enough or running out or I don't know. That's why we don't worry about it. Yeah, no third rail. Well, not enough power to put through it, I guess. So I've read. I don't know.
Tracking that we've done. So, it's not like we're interested in going through all this effort, a year and a half of gaining ballot access to simply just throw sand in the gears. We set out in this and very clearly that we're going to wait till Super Tuesday.
You don't throw sand in the gears. It's a monkey wrench in the gears. Yeah, a monkey wrench goes in the gears, not sand. No, sand. Like sand through an hourglass, so are the days of our lives, a soap opera. Yeah, it's a monkey wrench. Well, I'm not saying anything. Maybe it's sand in the gears where he's from or whatever. That's what he knows. I mean, that's all. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just saying I've not heard sand in the gears. I've heard of a monkey wrench in the gears. Yeah, but it's not right or wrong. They're just idioms. They're just expressions. They're silly, but anyway, I just notice these things. That's all.
Find out if America was happy with these presumptive nominees, and if they weren't, and if we could find a ticket put forward, we'd offer it. Now, if it goes on and we come to the conclusion that America is happy with these two choices, then that's something we can, we can bridge that gap later on. But as it stands now, America's not happy, and the ticket that we would put forward, we would have hoped would be a ticket that could win.
Well, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your life will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. It's silent. I don't hear any clapping, and I think I see dead people too.
Centre-left political organisation Third Way has been raising the alarm about the potential impact of a no-labels candidate. They maintain while they have no chance of winning, it could well hand the election to Donald Trump. We spoke to Kate de Gruyter, Third Way's Director of Communications.
Would you say you've already done your job by scaring off the big-name candidates for no labels? I mean, who cares what no labels do with some no-name candidate that nobody's going to vote for?
We've been working very hard to make that case publicly, and we have absolutely seen a big list of high-profile names walk away from the no labels bid. That includes Senator Joe Manchin, their co-chair Larry Hogan, Senator Kirsten Sinema said the same thing, and we've even had reporting in the last week that Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has also said no. So they're coming up empty, but our concern is that it doesn't take much. What we have seen is that 6 of the 7 states that were decided by less than 3% of the vote in 2020 went to Joe Biden. But it would only take a very small number of third-party votes to flip some of those states red for Trump. And I'll give you one example. Arizona is one of the key battleground states that everyone is going to be watching this November. From 2016 to 2020, there was a decline of 86,000 fewer third-party voters in Maricopa County, Arizona alone. That is the main population center for the Arizona state vote. If a fraction of those folks are tempted to join a third-party ticket, they could wipe away the 10,000 vote advantage that Joe Biden had in the state last year. The third-party votes exist in the places that will decide the election. And so that's why we are continuing to pound the pavement to make sure that there is not one serious candidate that we have overlooked, who we haven't worked to try and educate about the danger that this ticket will be a dangerous spoiler.
Kate, the chair of No Labels, Joe Liberman, has said they won't be a spoiler, and if they don't think they can win the election, then they will end the campaign before November. So don't they deserve a chance to try and find a winning ticket?
There is a high number of folks that are not looking forward to the presidential election, but that doesn't mean that they are going to be ready to pull the lever for a third-party candidate. The challenge that No Labels is encountering is that the slice of the electorate that is truly unattached to either party is much slimmer than the large numbers that they tout, and there tend to be very wildly divergent views among that group of people. You might have folks that would prefer a much more far-left candidate, as well as folks that would have a farther right candidate to meet some of their views. And so finding a single nominee who can unite that group is a challenge. And frankly, our numbers show that there's just not enough of a base there to run a winning national campaign. Now, that being said, they had said over the past year on many occasions that they were only going to go forward if they had a path to win. We have not seen a single poll or data point that they have been able to point to that shows that they can be competitive in a head-to-head race against 2 former presidents. Instead, their own polling has actually shown that they hand Donald Trump a 5-point advantage when their ticket enters the race. When it's a head-to-head, just Joe Biden and Donald Trump, it's essentially a tie, according to No Labels' own polling. But the addition of their ticket hands Donald Trump an advantage.
You guys are focusing a lot on No Labels, but do you really think No Labels is a greater threat to Biden than RFK Jr. is?
Right now, I would say yes, and here's why. No Labels is actually on the ballot in far more states than RFK is, and they're on the ballot in some of the key battleground states that will decide the White House. No Labels is currently on the ballot in 16 states, and that includes Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina. Right now, RFK is only on the ballot in Utah. Now, he's making some progress, and so we're continuing to watch that, because we do believe that any third-party candidate in 2024 who divides the anti-Trump coalition is dangerous. And we think that there's a very real possibility that if RFK can get on the ballot in those places that will matter, he too could be dangerous.
Kate, could a more prominent No Labels candidate change the equation instead of people who tried and failed like Nikki Haley and Dean Phillips? What if hypothetically they convinced Oprah Winfrey to run for president?
If they can get Michelle Obama or Oprah Winfrey or Taylor Swift, then we are in a totally new ballgame. But there is absolutely no indication that that is remotely in the possibility for them. The most recent candidate that they've talked about has been a former lieutenant governor out of Georgia, who frankly I had to Google. That is not a ticket that can compete against two former presidents who are going to have $1 billion at their disposal to run a massive national campaign.
Do you take no labels at their word about their intentions, or do you think they could be a deliberate Republican stalking horse?
We have worked very hard to take them at their word. There are certainly folks out in the ecosystem who have questioned their motives. We have not taken that tact. We believe that they are trying to find a way forward, and our concern is that they have a strategy and tactics that are not going to take them to the outcome that they are seeking. So what we have worked very hard over the last year and a half is to point to the historical, electoral, the polling and public opinion research data about the electorate to try and make our case to both No Labels and to others in their ecosystem who might be contemplating working with them on this bid about exactly why their strategy cannot achieve the ends that they seek.
A big clue, of course, Kate, to their possible motives is to follow the money. Who is funding them? Do we know where that money is coming from?
No, and that's one of the very frustrating things about this process. No Labels is currently operating as a 501c4, which means that they can operate using unlimited amounts of anonymous money to fund their efforts. We know very little about the folks who stand to benefit from this ticket, and frankly, who will be deciding the candidate at the top of their bid. What we do know from some public reporting is that there are a lot of pretty deep red Republicans, including folks in the Trump orbit, who are cheering them. And in fact, Donald Trump himself was tweeting positively about a No Labels ticket just last week. What our concern is that there are perhaps some folks in their orbit who see this as Donald Trump's best hope to get the majority that he would need to win. He's got a hard ceiling here. He can't get above 50%, but he desperately needs the help of third parties to divide the anti-Trump majority and to clear his path to victory. And that's why we've seen a lot of voices in the MAGA wing of the party actually cheering on No Labels.
So for those who are disturbed about the electoral duopoly, I'm sure you understand where they're coming from. What do you advise that they should do to fight against the status quo in a way that won't elect a candidate that they hate?
Look, there are a whole bunch of electoral reforms that would help make the election process more democratic and would give a stronger voice to folks in the mainstream. We are a center-left organization. There are initiatives like ranked choice voting, opening up primaries and caucuses to really ensure that it's not just a tiny group of people making the decision about who is going to be nominated and running for the two parties. And I think that you have to build from the ground up. I think it is very difficult to imagine how you can launch a successful presidential bid with no national base of support. But you could absolutely see how, a state or regional push that builds support might be able to help bring more independent voices into the Congress or perhaps the Senate, where having a few folks dedicated to seeking compromise and common sense could have a real impact, and that would give you a foundation to build from. But that's not what we see happening here with this No Labels plan. And with a second Donald Trump term on the line, this is not the right way to go about building a successful national campaign.
Kate DeGoiter, thanks for being with us on the Fireside Chat.
Thanks for having me.
You know what? I have no idea who Kate DeGoiter is. I don't have any idea. But you know what? All those things she said, ranked choice voting and all that other stuff, that is just craziness. There's nobody in this country who understands what that even means. I know what it means. Confusion beyond belief. Data wonky technocrats, something invented, I don't know, in the dark recesses of computer land or something. Nobody knows what that is. I know one thing, it's not one person, one vote. No, no. That's radical beyond belief. All of those things are radical beyond belief. And you know what? To use the words from Planet America, duopoly. That's what it is. Democrat and Republican. It's that way in every single state. Across the country. It's been this way for a long time. It's not in the United States Constitution. I don't know. Well, it is in the state constitutions. That's where it's at. It would have to be there, but oh, good luck with that. Yeah, good luck figuring that all out. Yeah, good luck. Yeah, lots of luck. Well, Nebraska has a unicameral legislature. They do. I have no idea how that works in Nebraska. Gosh, I couldn't even imagine. It's the only state that has a unicameral state legislature. Well, Virginia sort of does, but the Burgess, not really, not exactly. No, not really. Well, yeah, a lot of luck. Well, that's why you get somebody like this talking, because, well, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, one, they haven't done the research. I don't know how you'd really do the research. You'd have to know what you were trying to accomplish. I don't know how you can know what you're trying to accomplish. It's like the chicken and egg thing. It really is. For me, all it says is, what a fool's errand for anyone in this country, out of this country, anywhere, to begin to even try to think like, let's do something about the two-party system in America to make it blah, 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 blah. Go for it. Go right ahead. The Supreme Court said there's no limits on campaign contributions. There isn't. Well, they said, this other group's a 501c4. Yeah, they are. You have to be a 501c4. If you're not a 501c4, well, that's the IRS code. It's an exemption from the IRS to not have to pay taxes on money raised. Because if you're raising money in the United States in a group or anything, well, it immediately has tax implications and stuff. Yes. Churches, they have an exemption as well because they're a religious organization. But the rule of the IRS is you owe taxes, period. The end of the story. Unless there's exemptions to that. There's a whole list of them. There are. Good luck figuring that all out, too. Yeah. Oh, lots of luck, Rastro. That's really complicated, too. Unless you're a business. Well, corporation S, LLC, Yeah, okay. It's not about exotic anything, let alone for politics. So, and 501c3s aren't even supposed to be involved in politics, which raises an even bigger question that is still even a mystery to many. How is it that in Washington, D.C., all of these think tanks are 501c3? They all say they are. They do. And every single one of them could be no deeper, heavy involved in politics and lobbying and everything else than what they are. They do, and they are, but I've never heard of a single one ever getting into trouble about anything. Never. Well, it's up to the Department of Justice. It is. They are all inside the Beltway. Pretty much so. Well, equal opportunity, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. It's just one of those things about Washington that people like me don't like, but yeah. What are you going to do about that? Not me. I don't have standing to bring a suit against a 501c3 that I think is messing around in things they don't. No, I don't have a right to do that. Of course not. It's none of my business, really. That's up to other people, Congress or justice or something like that. At least myself and others understand something. There's lots of things we don't like about the United States. Whatever country you're in, there aren't. But most people, even myself, try to stay in our own lane. Yeah, we got to do whatever. But apparently not this third way group. I don't even get it, what they're talking about. At all. I still don't know what they're trying to do. Because I don't think they do either. Well, I don't know there's a solution to their question, but then I don't even know what the question is. But it's great that American Planet, has this on here. Yeah, there used to be a fictitious newspaper called the Daily Planet. That's where Clark Kent worked. The Superman guy. That's the Daily Planet. Metropolis and all that. Well, anyway, let's see here. Oh, there we go.
The United States House.
So, well, the video from American Planet's at 27 minutes and 43 seconds, and my video's at 1 hour and 35 minutes. So, Ronnie Ward from the Ditmas section of the Flatbush neighborhood, Brooklyn, in the city of New York. It's Saturday, the 16th day of March, 2024.